Stop buying asparagus, put down the broccoli, and forget what you know about vitamin C. What if I told you there is a single plant that outperforms all of them combined? Imagine a vegetable with the tender, creamy crunch of premium asparagus, the complex, nutty sweetness of a hazelnut, and ounce-for-ounce packs more raw vitamin C than an orange. But here is the statistic that the modern food industry hates. This is not a fragile annual crop that you have to buy and replant every spring. You plant this once, and it feeds you for 20 years. It is a biological investment that pays dividends for decades. If you want to build a garden that feeds you instead of a garden that needs you, subscribe to Ancestral Garden right now. We are taking our food independence back. Thomas Jefferson considered it a treasure at Monticello. The Victorian aristocrats of England built special ceramic palaces just to grow it. It was the king of vegetables that saved sailors from scurvy long before we understood nutrition. So, if it is delicious, immortal, and medically superior, why isn't it in your grocery store? Why have you never heard its name? The answer is simple. It didn't disappear because it failed. It disappeared because it refused to fit in a cardboard box. This is Sea Kale. And today we are going to find out why the industrial food system tried to erase it from history. Welcome to Ancestral Garden. To understand the true value of sea kale, we must travel back to a time before supermarkets to the rugged, windswept coastlines of northern Europe. This plant was not born in a pampered greenhouse, it was forged in the salt spray. Its Latin name is Crambe maritima. It is a halophyte, a rare breed of plant that actually thrives in salt. While salt water kills almost every other vegetable in your garden, sea kale drinks it. It grows wild on the desolate shingle beaches of the Baltic and the North Atlantic, pushing its roots deep through the stones to find fresh water underground. For centuries before we knew what vitamin C was, this plant was a lifesaver. Long before sailors carried limes or lemons, they relied on sea kale. They would stop at these rocky beaches, harvest the leaves, and pickle them in barrels. It was the only thing standing between a crew of sailors and the gruesome death of scurvy during long ocean voyages. It was the ultimate survival food. But in the 18th century, something remarkable happened. It moved from the beach to the banquet hall. The gardeners of the Victorian era discovered a secret. They realized that if you covered the plant in early spring, blocking out the light, a magical transformation occurred. The bitter, tough green leaves disappeared. In their place, the plant shot up tender, ivory-white stalks. These stalks were sweet, crisp, and delicate. Suddenly, sea kale became a sensation. It became the darling of the aristocracy. In the walled gardens of London and Paris, the wealthy elite commissioned special terracotta pots called forcing pots, hand-thrown by potters just for this vegetable. To serve a plate of blanched sea kale was a sign of extreme sophistication and wealth. It even crossed the ocean. Thomas Jefferson, the founding father of American agriculture, knew its power. In 1809, he recorded planting sea kale in his garden at Monticello. He recognized what we have forgotten, that this is one of the few vegetables that bridges the gap between a survival crop and a gourmet delicacy. It was loved by presidents. It was craved by kings. It saved lives at sea. So how did a plant with such a glorious resume fall so hard? How did we go from special ceramic pots to total obscurity? The answer lies in the Industrial Revolution. When the world shifted from growing food to manufacturing food, sea kale committed a fatal error. It refused to conform. The modern grocery store is not designed for flavor. It is designed for logistics. To earn a spot on the supermarket shelf, a vegetable does not need to taste good. It needs to survive a 3-day ride in a refrigerated semi-truck. It needs to sit under fluorescent lights for a week without wilting. It needs to be tough enough to be handled by machines and stacked in plastic crates. And this is where sea kale failed the test. It committed the crime of being ephemeral. The moment you harvest those tender blanched shoots, a biological timer starts ticking. The sugars begin to fade. The crisp texture begins to soften. Like fresh corn or a ripe peach, sea kale is at its peak for only a short window of time. It demands to be eaten fresh. But the industrial food system hates fresh. It loves stable. So they replaced it. They gave us asparagus. Asparagus is tough. You can cut it, ship it across the world from Peru to Pennsylvania, and it still looks green. It might taste like wet cardboard compared to what you grow in your garden, but it survives the journey. Sea kale does not compromise. And then there is the labor. Remember those ceramic pots. To get that sweet, creamy flavor, sea kale must be blanched, grown in total darkness for a few weeks in the spring. This requires a human touch. You have to cover the plant. You have to check it. You have to harvest it by hand. Modern agriculture is addicted to efficiency. It wants endless monocultures that can be sprayed by planes and harvested by giant combines. It has no patience for a plant that demands individual attention. So the industry made a cold calculation. They decided that your convenience was more important than your nutrition. They decided that a vegetable that lasts for 2 weeks in the fridge is more valuable than a vegetable that tastes like heaven but requires care. We sacrificed quality on the altar of convenience, and in doing so, we lost more than just a flavor. We lost a biological powerhouse. Because while the industry was busy selecting crops that looked good in a plastic bag, they forgot to check what was happening inside the cells. And that brings us to the science. Because when you look at what sea kale actually contains, you realize that we didn't just throw away a vegetable. We threw away a medicine cabinet. Let us look at the numbers. When you analyze the chemical profile of sea kale, you stop seeing a vegetable. You start seeing a life support system. First, let us address the vitamin C. Historically, we credit limes and oranges for ending the scourge of scurvy. But strictly by weight raw, sea kale is a superior source. An average orange contains about 53 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams. Raw sea kale leaves can hit significantly higher concentrations. To a sailor in 1750, this plant was not a salad. It was a pharmaceutical intervention. But the real magic happens at the molecular level. Do you know that distinct pungent smell when you cut into a cabbage or a radish that is the smell of glucosinolates? These are sulfur-rich compounds that the plant produces to defend itself against pests. But when we eat them, they trigger our body's own defense mechanisms. Modern research suggests these compounds are powerful antioxidants linked to reducing inflammation and fighting cellular damage. Sea kale is packed with them. It is essentially condensed health. But the most impressive engineering is not in the leaves. It is underground. Most of the vegetables you buy, like lettuce, spinach, and corn, are annuals. They have weak, shallow root systems that panic if it does not rain for 3 days. Sea kale is a perennial. It is built for the long game. It drives a massive taproot down into the earth, reaching depths of up to 2 meters or 6 feet. While your lettuce is dying of thirst on the surface, sea kale is drinking from the deep water table. It is a nutrient pump. It pulls minerals from the subsoil that other plants can never reach. And it has one final superpower that makes it the food of the future. We are living in a world where sea levels are rising and fresh water is becoming scarce. Salinity is destroying farmland. Most crops die the moment salt touches their roots. Sea kale is a halophyte. It loves salt. You can literally water it with diluted seawater and it will thank you. In a future where traditional agriculture struggles against a changing climate, a plant that drinks salt, fights drought, and lives for 20 years is not just a delicacy. It is a blueprint for survival. So how do we bring this lost technology back to our gardens? The first rule of sea kale is simple. Stop looking for it at the supermarket. You will not find it there. To bring this plant back, you have to become a seeker. You need to find a specialized nursery that sells seeds, or better yet, root cuttings known as thongs. These look like small, pale sticks, but they are pure potential energy. Plant them in a sunny spot. Give them space. Remember, you are not planting a seasonal vegetable. You are planting a perennial that will stand in that spot for 20 years. Treat it like you would treat a fruit tree. For the first year, you must do nothing. Let it grow. Let the leaves turn green and gather sunlight. Let the roots dive deep and establish that massive underground battery. You must be patient. But in the second spring, the magic begins. And here is the secret that the Victorian gardeners guarded so jealously. You do not need the expensive ceramic palaces of the 19th century. You do not need a fancy greenhouse. You just need a standard opaque bucket. A black trash can, a large pot, or even a heavy box will work. In early spring, just as the purple buds begin to break the surface of the soil, you take your bucket and place it upside down over the plant. You weigh it down with a brick so the wind does not blow it away. You seal the plant in total darkness. Inside that dark chamber, a fascinating biological reaction occurs. The plant, sensing the spring warmth but seeing no light, triggers an emergency growth response. It draws upon the massive energy reserves stored in its deep taproot. It shoots up rapidly, desperately searching for the sun. Because there is no light, there is no photosynthesis. No chlorophyll is produced. The stalks do not turn green and bitter. They remain ivory white, tender, and incredibly sweet. After 2 or 3 weeks, you lift the bucket. What you find underneath will look like alien life. Pale, curled, thick stems that snap with a satisfying crunch. This is the delicacy that kings paid a fortune for. You harvest them by cutting them at the base. You can eat them raw right there in the garden. The flavor is hard to describe if you have never tasted it. It has the texture of crisp asparagus, but the flavor is creamier with a distinct nutty finish that tastes like hazelnut and sweet cabbage. It is complex. It is refined. It is unlike anything you can buy in a store. But here is the most important part of the cycle. Once you have harvested your spring feast, you must remove the bucket. You must let the plant see the sun. The new leaves will grow back green and tough. They will photosynthesize all summer and autumn, recharging the battery in the roots, preparing to feed you again next year. It is a partnership. You give it darkness, it gives you food. You give it light, it heals itself. By growing sea kale, you are stepping out of the industrial food chain. You are eating a flavor that cannot be mass-produced. You are eating history. But we are not done yet. We have spent the last century trying to bend nature to our will. We straightened the rivers. We leveled the forests. And we turned our food into standardized products that fit neatly into plastic boxes. But the best flavors and the best nutrition are found in the things that refuse to be tamed. Sea kale is a symbol. It represents a time when food was valued for its substance, not its shelf life. It represents a time when patience was rewarded with a flavor that money could not buy. By planting this in your garden, you are doing more than growing a vegetable. You are planting a backup plan. You are planting a crop that ignores drought, a crop that thrives in salt, a crop that will feed your children long after the current agricultural system has faced its crisis. Do not let the industry decide what is on your plate. Do not let them tell you that a 3-week-old asparagus from another continent is the best you can get. Reclaim the lost flavors. Dig up the past to feed the future. Go find the seeds, find the root cuttings, and bring the king back to his throne. If this story made you hungry for the truth, subscribe to Ancestral Garden and hit the bell. We are just scratching the surface of what has been forgotten. The next secret is waiting.